Welcome to the Wisdom Check by Tabletop to Keyboard. This is going to be our bi-weekly podcast where we discuss things such as Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, I think maybe we need to turn up my mic a little bit, guys. How about some more game?
This is the intro to end all intros. Talk about Dungeons, Dragons, and
Now, I don't think that's proper. This is a family show after all. This is the intro we could use, fellas. It's good, clean fun for everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom Check, where we have wholesome conversations about the dilemmas we face every day.
Nah, hold on a second. I got your intro right here. Yeah, that's better. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. Well, I'm right, Jeff's wrong. We're going to have guests on to talk about it. It's going to be awesome, because I said so.
He is right. He did say so. I don't know. Is surf music the best music for a podcast about D&D?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
This just in, nobody can agree on our intro for this podcast. So we're just going to start. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. Roll for initiative. Fuck. A 1. It's like every time.
Hey guys, welcome
Good
to
evening,
the
everyone.
Wisdom Check. So, I am Jeff, as always, your host, and you may be noticing we got some different faces here than what you're used to, and that's because, one, Dustin Ogle, just before the stream, decided he was all about telling me the Sasquatch was real, and he decided to prove it by going to go find him and bringing him on to our show. So
He's
instead,
a man of dedication.
it is true, and last minute we got our very own DM, Levi, to come on in here. And some of you guys may remember him from a previous episode when we were talking about homebrew or just our episodes of the Everstorm. And I'm glad to have you, buddy. So go ahead and say hello to the crowd.
Hi, everybody. I'm Levi. It's lovely to be here.
Levi is my favorite, so it's okay.
Oh, well, now you're my favorite. That's awesome. That's great.
And so who is it that's pandering to the new host, the not for me? Well, that's our guest over here. That's our guest here, OneCritWonder, part of the Dadbot crew, if I'm not mistaken. And
I'm my own entity. I am just OneCritWonder.
okay,
He's a
bad
man
intel.
alone.
Awesome. So we're blessed to have you on here tonight. I understand you've had a new addition to the family, and I'm very grateful to have you on here. So we are excited to have you.
It's definitely been an adventure. I have had the craziest year that I've had in a long, long time. But once I started kind of bumping into your crew via Twitter and then Discord, I've been keeping an eye on the show and wanting to be on the show because I run a similar show. And so I would like to have y'all on the show sometime. And I just
I'd love to.
We
Like-
would love to do that.
cross collaboration, sharing audiences, talking with other content creators. And I just love all of this stuff. So glad to be here, y'all.
Yeah, definitely. Glad to have you. Because, I mean, that's what it's really all about, is really lifting people up, sharing what each other are up to, and, you know, just kind of injecting more life into the community of gamers. And so for those in the audience that haven't seen your content, what could they expect when they go over there?
So prior to this year, coming into early this year, I was running a Star Wars game via Twitch, and then everything I do on Twitch I put on YouTube. But I ran a Star Wars Edge of the Empire campaign, and I was a player in a Dungeons and Dragons 5e game. However, I got word that I was going to be deploying in April of this year, so I kind of petered everything down. Both of those campaigns actually came to the end of the modules, so it was a great stopping point.
Oh, perfect.
Congrats. That rarely happens.
Right. So it lined up that both of my games ended at the perfect point, and I was like, cool, I can take a year, I'll be deployed, I'll do lots of work on my own homebrew setting, I'll have tons of time to do notes and come back with a good fresh cleanse because I had a year away from everything.
Cleanse for homebrew.
Yes. And then I'll spare you the long story, but between the baby and work things and all the craziness, I lucked out and I am not currently in a war zone. So I get to do RPG things again.
We are. That's so many yeses.
Yeah, that's much better, right? So
absolutely.
I'm
Baby,
slowly,
not in a war, talking about RPGs. This is amazing.
so I'm slowly building up right now, but folks need to kind of understand that newborn and job stuff like that. But
I'm amazed that you're awake right now.
I'm
like
amazed
that's by itself a feat that everybody else that
I took a nap
have.
in the truck at lunch at work. Just don't do us.
Oh no, you get those micro naps wherever you can. That's important. Nap management is a key skill to early parenting.
Yes, trading shifts with the wife. But so what I do right now is I call it Roll High, Don't Die, which is like a social hour, kind of like this. I get GMs and players and other content creators on. I give them a chance to do what I'm doing right now, which is just give their elevator pitch to their content. And then we just talk about nerd stuff for an hour. And so
it's the best.
I stream that on Twitch, and then I upload it all to YouTube. And then I just last week kicked off Wednesday nights at 6:30 Pacific. I am running the new Essentials Kit adventure, the Dragon of Icespire Peak. So I have pushed into I got a new camera, I got a new microphone. Like I'm going to do a face cam stream and kind of up my quality, my production value. So
we have many conversations about similar ideas, like how much should we be this and how much should we step up this? So I'm with you. That's awesome.
It is my first, here's everyone's faces. You can actually see who's gaming and stuff like that game. And I managed to con a pretty cool group of people into it. So I have two of the folks from Roll Initiative, the YouTube channel Roll Initiative. I have Gregory, who runs a YouTube channel called 1 in 20 D&D. I have Aviad, who runs a YouTube channel called Beyond the Screen. I have Ben, who runs a YouTube channel called The Curious Owlbear. And then I have from
that
Twitter,
one's good.
Yeah, right. And then from Twitter, not currently running a YouTube channel, but definitely willing to show up and has showed up on shows similar to Wisdom Check. His name's Clay, but his Twitter handle is the DM Behind the Screen. And you guys may or may not know him. But so I have this it's 5 YouTube channels and a guy who spends all day talking about RPGs on Twitter, all piled into one D&D stream. So we have a ton of fun, and we've only played one session so far, and it was that new everyone learning each other, awkward start. You all meet in a tavern kind of crawl.
Good old tropes.
But
tough.
As we got to the second half of the session, and then they were out adventuring and stuff like that, it was just such fun, and I am definitely looking forward to this session on Wednesday. And in fact, they're blowing up my Discord right now. I can see Twitch, or I can see the chat just crawling over there because they're all making jokes about the elf monk cannibal lady.
Well, hey, Chuck just called us all handsome, so I'll take that. Hi, Chuck. Thanks.
Yeah. Also, thanks for the bits there, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a great crew of people that like to stop in and show support all around. So, we love what's going on here. These types of shows, bringing people together, showing different sides of the hobby, because everyone's a different type of player. They come at it with different kinds of styles. Like even at our own table, we have a lot of variety in what we enjoy about games.
Oh, yeah. Like Clint and I have known each other forever, but we definitely prioritize what we want in a play style very different. And Cam is opposite end of me. And then parts of Jeff here are similar to my philosophies, and then parts I just disagree with them endlessly. But the fact that we all work together is great. So let's get into what we talked about. So you proposed tonight to talk about passive to pacifist characters and how one would handle that at the table. So what's the first time you encountered that, and how did it play?
So the first time I encountered that was actually in 5th edition, despite the fact that I had heard people interested in doing it both in 3.5, Pathfinder, and then in 4th edition. All of those kind of angle slightly more towards combat, so it was much harder to do a pacifist character. There was some fun builds for it in 3E, but the first time I'd actually seen it in a conversation and then at a table was in 5e, and somebody made a wizard, and they got all kinds of fun spells,
Okay.
but they avoided fireball and all of the other like I'm a wizard that flings fireballs into the room type spells, and they wanted to be the scholar who was out on the adventure to learn stuff and take it back to the archives, but was not here to kill, was not trained in combat, had no desire to blow everybody up or all that stuff.
Did he have any saving throw based lockdown things, or was he all knowledge?
Right, and that's why I find this such an interesting conversation. Is the first question when you say I want to play a pacifist is define pacifist, right?
Right. What exactly
are you okay with getting in a fight and subduing your enemies,
right?
Or do you refuse to fight at all, or are you okay with killing demons and beasts and all that?
Right.
Stuff? You just wouldn't kill another person,
because you say pacifist in the D&D realm where inside the game racism rules supreme, but everything is sentient. Then what is life worth valuing, and what is life worth destroying willy-nilly?
And so this character was a wizard with a single level of cleric. They had knowledge cleric or arcana cleric, I forget what. But they did have some charm persons and command and sleep and stuff like that. Right. And there were several times where I probably still have some screenshots where they did actually disable an entire room full of cultists.
Oh, wow.
Nice. The Apocalypse, I think it was. And he walked in
awesome.
And he got a sleep spell off on the first round, and then the barbarian and the monk charge in, but before they can do anything, his next round comes around and he casts command up leveled and commanded 3 people to grovel. And it's okay, well, everything in the room is now prone. Now comes to the second part of your pacifist character.
Yes.
Are you okay with the fact that you didn't technically kill that guy, but he was kneeling on the ground prone when the guy with the 2-handed axe walked in the room?
It's almost like there's levels of pacifism in and of itself.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
So that's why I find it such an interesting topic, because there's lots of weird party dynamics, but also you have to really define what it means to your character. You have to think about it. You can't just say, I'm a pacifist, I'm not going to attack nothing.
Right.
You need to actually put some thought in.
This brings up that old school trope of the pseudo evil rogue and how much the party ignores what he's doing,
right? Yeah,
or how much they acknowledge what he's doing, and then that buds up against the classic paladin.
Yeah, you got
how much he's
the
endorsing
lawful paladin.
Right.
If you know that this guy is a jerk, but you're not actually stopping him, where does that put you on the scale?
You can see that awkward position of metagame situation where you got to be we're at a table, we got to work together. But it's interesting because it really comes down to what the motivation is behind the pacifism, I think. So in 3E, you had these. Usually it was a vow of pacifism for the monks, and then you traded off a bunch of stuff and you gained some superpowers or whatever. And so it was kind of clearly defined there. Whereas I think with something like this, where you're talking about the wizard, that's definitely a different style of play that can definitely play pacifist. And in fact, I think my character is almost on that. I didn't take any attack spells besides cantrips until just now and the campaign. We're level 5.
Right.
I'm super fond of control wizards just as a concept anyway. So a lot of times I'm not the fireball in the room, ask questions later kind of wizard. I prefer battlefield control.
Oh, me too.
But I've never tied that to a pacifist reason myself.
Yeah. If I've ever gone that way, it's only just to avoid the stereotype and give myself a tactical obstacle, but that's the only reason why.
Plus, it's the best kind of wizard.
Why
bother with why bother with rolling some d6s when you can just control everything? The number of people that I've completely removed from the fight with a water sphere just because I got them in the giant bubble and then rolled it over a cliff. Cool, I don't have to roll damage on those guys.
So good.
That's really far from pacifism.
And that's the thing.
When it comes to pacifism, though, I can appreciate that they're at least thinking about a reason that their character would do that. And anyone that can come to me and say, I have this character concept and here's why my character would do that, like you're a step ahead of the barbarian who's not going to be a nightmare to DM for because I know he's just going to hit stuff.
Yeah.
But that's all that they've thought about their character. If you come to me with something that I as a DM now have to go through hurdles, but at least it's because you are thinking about the world and how your character interacts with it.
But then those hurdles are, in essence, a writing challenge that then provides opportunities to find little nuggets. Like, if somebody was inspired to pacifism, that likely was not just a choice made. It was a choice made as inspired by something else. So then what was that? Then you go down the chain of what this and what that and why that. And next thing you know, you've got 2 or 3 NPCs that can show up. And that's cool. So,
very fleshy character.
Anytime a player brings something like pacifism to the table, it's more work for the DM. But then also more.
It's worth it.
That's more things that the DM can do to drive that narrative and connect to that player. The main challenge for me when someone brings a character like that to the table is not that person making me mad. It's that all of the other players making sure that everyone wants to get to play the character that they want. You brought up the rogue and paladin thing. Okay, the rogue wants to play the sneaky rogue who steals from people. The paladin wants to play the righteous, law-abiding citizen, but they're conflicting. And so you as the DM have to find a way that you are not telling someone, no, you can't play your character how you envisioned. And if you have the pacifist in the group that's upsetting Stabby McBarbarian.
But at the same time, that inherent party conflict could be good story.
Absolutely.
And arguably, the reasons we have evil characters that we love is because they were smart. Because something about their level of approach was intelligent to avoid circumstances that would get them caught. So, I mean, the only reason the Joker's interesting is because he's the archetype, because he's the Joker. If we change the name to something dumb like the janitor, and we put him in a jumpsuit, he suddenly becomes not at all interesting. He's just a guy that kills people willy-nilly, seemingly to prove no point at all. And so because it isn't smart to create interesting story decisions, it doesn't help. It's just empty.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree with that. And that's why I like, if you can bring an interesting concept to me, but then give me the why and show me that you have thought about it before just throwing it out there.
Right.
I will work with you to help make it happen, whether it's a pacifist character or a character that's going through a redemption arc and starts off evil, but is like, finding themselves or whatever it may be. The bard that wants to sleep with everyone. Cool. Like that's a ha-ha trope. But if you can bring to me more than that and show me that you've thought about your character and you want there to be consequences to these actions and stuff like that, like I will work with you all day to make sure that you, me, and everyone else at the table enjoys the story that it brings.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with this pacifism thing, the comments in this section here are pretty funny, But anyway, the pacifism thing is interesting because I think system plays a big part into it. Some game systems are more adept at dealing with a pacifist. Like, for instance, when you're in a World of Darkness game or like a modern game, the idea of just like murdering everything in your path doesn't make a lot of sense. There's too many consequences for that. There's too much social dynamic at play. There's laws, there's police, there's witnesses.
You have infrastructure that's been around forever, and the established rule of law is of law, not the Wild West. So
right. And then with D&D, on the other hand, the entire fabric of the game system is kick down the door and murder the orc.
Your character is based on how good and in which ways do they fight.
Yeah, and it's very black and white in a lot of cases where it's like, is that guy okay to kill? Yeah, his alignment says he's evil. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Don't have to think about it anymore. We're done.
Comes back to the whole alignment thing too.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, that's a beast, not a humanoid. Thus, we can kill.
Yeah. He's got an alphabet, but that doesn't matter. Well, it's like we talked about a couple
Yeah,
episodes
but good
back.
luck trying to kill a dog these days.
Yeah, no, that's
Or a
not gonna
cat.
Yeah.
like, oh, I better not put any cats in this game. People are going to be fucking mad. if we kill
I
a
mean,
cat.
that kind of depends on whether it's somebody's familiar or not. I have found that people will go right for familiars, but if
Oh.
it's just a random puppy, like, nope.
not looking at our DM here in the face for any particularly long second or anything.
What? What? You the one that's a long. Okay, short story. We just made an inside joke. There was an argument when he shapeshifted into a Hydra that because he shares spells with the familiar, it gets to be a Hydra too. So there would be two Hydras. And we argued, we rules lawyered some rules, but then the short answer I came to is like, if you really want this, fine. But if I kill the Hydra, you're familiar, then you get the XP penalty. Then that's what he's talking about. That's the scar I put on him forever.
So anyway,
and I didn't do it either. I don't know what he's complaining about.
So anyway, yeah. So I think that the rule systems plays a lot into it. You know, like we were saying.
Yeah, because for multiple reasons, right? Obviously, D&D and systems like it are going to be combat focused. But you can think of systems that have a heavy crunch combat factor that there are narrative reasons why you would want to do that. Call of Cthulhu or other games like that. Or even look at like Dungeon Crawl Classics. Combat is really deadly. So obviously you might be okay with making a pacifist character who avoids combat, or just making a character who avoids combat because it's the smart thing to do. You're just a normal Joe, and that's a demon. It will murder your face.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of effort that has to come from the DM to make that work as well, because it's very easy for people to look at the situation and say, "Oh, there's a bad guy. If you spare him, he's going to come back and do evil."
Right.
I'm going to immediately punish you for doing the right thing because that's the way the world works. And I think if you do that, it really pushes that pacifist player to be like, "Never mind. You know, I don't want to do this." And for everybody around him to be like, "Yeah, you're an idiot." You know. Whereas I think you have to have a balance between that sort of realism of like bad guys will do bad, but also have some kind of reward for doing the right thing as a character.
Yeah, you need narratively a reason for them to do that, but you also need mechanically for them to have options that are not combat. If you play a game where the whole game is just crunch and they are choosing not to fight, but fighting is what the game is, what are they doing while fights are happening? What are they doing while fights are not happening? What does their character do? We play Star Wars, like Edge of the Empire, or just the FFG system in general. Someone makes a like senator, politico type character. When you get back to town, they are the ones trading and talking and doing stuff. And you got face characters in D&D, but like the way that the mechanics work, like anyone can really do that stuff. Like there's less to it. So if that character does not serve a purpose, are they just refusing to fight to be a stick in the mud, or for a reason, or are they just
I once purposely tried to run a coward.
Well, that's tough.
It was fun for 5 minutes. And at this point, I was doubling down. So I ended up just like using the rest of the party as meat shields and shooting spells from around them and stuff. Which essentially is any wizard anyway. But at the same time, I was like, it's going to be so different. No one does that. Everybody's Billy Badass. And there's a reason why you shouldn't play stuff that no one plays, because it probably isn't fun. I also did a silent character once. Fucking dumb.
I've done that, but I've only done that in an online game where I was actually able to like type out and describe my character looks this way or makes this hand motion or stuff like that. Like an in-person game or even an online game where we were using cameras or whatever, just sitting there doing nothing.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
I think you could pull it off if you were like a Kinku and you had like that list of things you could say, but they weren't actually speech. So maybe like
one of these days, I'm gonna try Kinku. I just
it would be kind of a neat concept.
The bumblebee thing.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd end up being kind of like a secretary. Like you're taking notes of literally everything being said all the time to create this weird comedic callback situation.
Yeah, you're making a soundboard basically.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. If you had one.
And like, I need to tell them this. Let me flip through the notes to find a time where a character said the word or.
Oh God.
Get one of those weird mashup things, like different guys' voices popping in. It's all Arnold Schwarzenegger for some reason.
An old Western movie.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I do think this concept could work, but I think it's just a lot more work.
Well, it's a huge gray area because there's so many contextual things that entirely affect the outcome. Like we were joking just now, Clint was, that he had a character that's a pacifist. No, it wasn't true. His character was stupid violent.
Murder man.
But he was spec'd entirely for non-lethal damage. He just did a shit ton of it. And then the weird thing is the dynamic changed in the group. Suddenly, the group became the whole group. Once they saw how much non-lethal he could do, they became hostage-taking interrogators, which they'd never been before. They were like, murder, murder, murder.
They can't talk if they're dead. It's weird.
Yeah, I have a whole side. I have a whole side conversation about, like, we talked about humanoids, right? Pacifist character. Do you draw the line at like humanoids over beasts and stuff like that? One of the thing that a thing that I didn't realize I would weigh so heavily on me is I'm going to make a one shot for Saturday. What's the baddies going to be? Should I use orcs? Well, no, orcs are humanoids and someone will probably end up speaking orcish. And if I've learned anything from my last like 4 one shots, it's that they're going to take a prisoner and then I'm going to end up doing an orc voice for 4 hours that I wasn't expecting to do. And like, maybe I'll just throw spiders at them so they'll kill it and move on.
Decisions based on voice acting.
And that's when somebody has to speak to animals.
Right there.
Yeah.
And then you have to do a spider voice for 4 hours.
I definitely had a goblin in an Eberron one shot that like his whole role, like it's the pre-written adventure from the back of the 3rd edition Eberron campaign guide. And it's just a one shot meant to introduce people to Eberron. And there's a goblin whose whole purpose in the adventure is they get to this market. They need to find someone to tell them where in the sewers to go. And they find this goblin and he's like, yeah, it's over there. But depending on if they buy stuff from him or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like it's a social encounter because you can buy stuff to him and drive down the cost because he goes, yeah, I'll tell you if you pay me or, you know, maybe if you buy some of my stuff. And that was supposed to be it. Right. Cool. I got my gruff goblin voice and he's going to direct him over there. And then they like tie the guy up and they're like, well, you're going to show us where it's at because we can't trust you. You're like, a goblin.
Shit.
Great. And so like for the next 3 combats, like they dragged him along and even in combat, they specified like, I'm watching the goblin. I push him over here and I make sure that I know what corner he's in so he can't run away while we're fighting because I know how goblins are. And so
that's racist.
I got stuck doing my chain smoking goblin voice for 2 hours that I wasn't going to do. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
On the TV show Supernatural, the guy that got cast as Castiel, he's like, I'm an angel. I don't know what an angel's voice even sounds like. So he made this super gruff voice because he was told he was going to be a short part.
Oh, no.
And now it's like he was on the show for, I think, 5 years or 6 years or something like that as essentially the second build character underneath the brothers. And long term, he had to do speech therapy because the gravelly voice he picked up was destroying his voice by the end of the first season that he was on.
I enjoy when you watch like a cartoon or something, Futurama or something like that, and you get all the way up to like season 8 or something, and you go back and watch the first season just for whatever, and you hear somebody that was making a voice where you're like, no wonder like this character voice gradually changed. Like they walked into episode 1, you know, making that voice for Bender or whoever, and then like couldn't keep it up.
Yeah, the pilot voices when they suddenly shift.
That's like the beginning of every campaign. You sit out there, you try a voice, and you're like, oh no.
Yep. Nope.
But it stuck this time for me.
I do it. I do it in my commute. Like my work commute, I am talking to myself in the car, doing dramatic dialogue like one side of a phone conversation. with stupid voices. And it's so ridiculous.
Not to incriminate myself, but I have a 25-minute drive to and from, and I can definitely there's a session tonight. Let me try my different goblin voice.
Yeah. And you're looking for that hook phrase in case you slide out of it.
Yeah. And more importantly, are these accents far enough apart? So let me talk this voice for a second, and then talk this voice, and then go back, because I don't want to swap NPCs mid conversation. Yeah.
Oh man, that's rough. Yeah,
definitely. There's some that just slide back and forth. Some dialects I have, they're a mess. I shouldn't even try.
Why are all my NPCs suddenly Irish? Where did
Irish? Oh, that's great.
You say shower voice works. BizLab says this. Everything sounds better in the shower. It's true.
Acoustics.
It's a beautifal environment.
What you need to do is you just do all of your shows from the shower, so that
there's a crowd that'll love that.
Weird Al purposely recorded. I think it was another one. Rides the Bus. His first big song. Either that or it was My Bologna.
Recorded in a bathroom with a suitcase. Yep.
That's so awesome.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
That's
just because you like the acoustics.
It just sounds better.
Just another Weird Al bit of trivia. He went to college 25 minutes away from me.
No.
Weird Al went to Cal Poly, which is right up the street from where I currently find myself.
That's fantastic.
That's great stuff. Awesome. So voices.
So we should talk about stuff.
Do we want to get into that?
No, we said pacifist, and then we're going to talk about
skill challenges. Non-combat challenges in general, right?
Yeah. So it's just one of my prepared rants. So when y'all were asking for topics, I threw them out and didn't realize that the first two things I said would be taken. But I do a lot of swapping between systems because I like playing new systems, learning from them, and then bringing them back. Especially 5e is my go-to right now, because 5e is nice and simple. And if I wanted to, I could take the three of us and we could go play 5e right now, and I would have to do no prep. That is a great thing to have in an RPG. Cool.
Oh yeah.
But there are things that you don't really think about. 4th edition had non-combat skill challenges, but there's not too much of that baked into 5e. But there's a lot of other systems like the Star Wars and Genesis Fantasy Flight system that social communication can be a structured encounter.
Yeah.
Does every conversation with every NPC need to be a rules thing? No. But you can have chase scenes and gather information, which used to be much more of a thing back in 3rd edition. It was a skill. But you can have a scene where the party needs to find information out, and they go around town talking to bartenders and people in shady alleys and whatever. And that system has a way to track whether they succeed or lose in that, besides just make a diplomacy check.
Right.
It uses the strain thresholds, and essentially you as the GM would set the parameters of that encounter to say, okay, well, the party needs to get so many wins before fails or whatever. And that's where that topic is really the thing that I like talking about is when you are structuring non-combat encounters, you need to think about them kind of like you would a combat encounter. What is the goal here?
Yeah.
What is the party's objective? What is the antagonist's objective? Okay. What is the parameters? What are the rules? What is the party allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do?
How can you make it interesting without making it boring? I feel like chases are hard to do. I feel like chases are we gain ground, we lost ground, we gain ground, we lost ground. I'm thinking how long do I want to drag this out? If I'm allowing free will, this could be 2 people, me and one other person rolling all fucking night. It's just
and so
it's tough.
I'll fall back on Star Wars just because I played it most recently. I was running a campaign this time last year, and it lasted until January, February timeframe. And I don't want to spoil anything from it because it's an official module, but we were having a starship chase through a junkyard. They were getting chased by TIE fighters through a junkyard. Okay.
Very cinematic. Very cool.
Cinematic as heck. Technically a combat encounter because the TIE fighters are shooting at them, but they're all in their ships, which means that one, maybe two people on guns, but everyone else is kind of either A,
Sitting there.
flying, or B, sitting there.
Right.
What do you do to get those characters involved? And one of the reasons that I like the system so much and that I chose this as my rant is the pilot is driving a ship through canyons of junk and trying to dodge, and there's waterfalls of acid and power cores that are arcing lightnings and stuff that they got to navigate through. But you got a mechanic, you got Chewbacca back there somewhere because the pilot just bounced off of a piece of a Star Destroyer. And so now Chewie's welding something. So whoever's got the mechanic skill is like actively spending their turns trying to keep the ship from blowing up and repairing all the damage of the TIE fighter shooting them. You got somebody in the dorsal and somebody in the ventral, like actively engaging combat. So everyone still has a job. No one's just sitting there in this encounter. And so when you plan these kind of things, you need to think about what everyone can be doing, even if they don't end up doing that thing, because no plan survives it, survives what the players are going to do. But you need to think about that.
But the fact that you plan that out so everybody has something to do, like a big mistake I learned from no courtroom scenes.
Right. And that's
awful.
That's where I go with like D&D. Like, okay, they're going to talk to the king, or they're going to there's going to be a trial. Okay.
Right.
Everyone's just going to go, that's the warlock with a +4 charisma.
Right. Let him talk. Let him talk.
Yeah.
Everybody just sits back.
Yeah, I think the issue with a lot of these encounters, like the chase or like the repairing and those sorts of things, is that there aren't a lot of decision points. It's like, oh, that thing is broke. Go roll your repair dice. Oh, that needs to be dodged. Roll your piloting thing.
Everything's on fire. Take care of it now. There is no abstract threat. Yeah.
So I think if you can design it not only for everyone to have a role, but for everyone to have choices in how they deal with what they're dealing with. There's a couple pieces of damage on the ship in different places. Which one do you go to? That sort of thing really opens up to consequences for actions.
I will wander into spoiler territory here. So anyone who's thinking about playing Beyond the Rim from Edge of the Empire, earmuffs for a second. The final big scene is you meet up with the pirates who've had you working for the entire module, and you're in their secret base, which is actually a Corvette, the Tantive 4, the first ship you see in Star Wars that Princess Leia's on.
Yeah.
It's one of those, but it's buried under a mountain of junk. And they've been slowly working on this ship for 20 years, and it's technically operational. But when the Empire finds out where they're at, they need to escape. And so you need to get this ship into space from under a pile of junk. And so everyone's running around doing stuff because they have explosive charges set up to blow the junk out of the way. The ship's not technically space worthy, so you need to seal off certain doors and stuff like that. And there's a lot of TIE fighters are coming. You have 5 minutes. Everyone needs to be doing something.
5 minutes? That's dozens of rounds. That's amazing.
You say that until you realize that you need to get from one end of a spaceship to the other, up the elevators, outside the ship, crawl across the top of this spaceship under a mountain of junk, scrambling through sharp metal and stuff that to get to thermal detonators that are gonna there's time constraints here.
I think I'm telling you, really important.
Well, time dilation between real time in the game and time outside of the game, that is an entire show right there. How fucked up that is.
Yeah.
More importantly, like you said, there needs to be choices because they're on that time crunch. So they crawl all the way up there, right? Right. They crawl all the way up there.
Yes, no, hurdle.
Side rant on that. Remind me to come back to that. They get up there and they fix 2 of the 3 explosives, and that's going to be good enough to get them out of the junk pile, but it's going to do a bunch of damage to the ship.
Right.
Your one good mechanic guy can now get downstairs and start welding doors closed and have more of the ship space worthy, or he can stay up there and keep playing with the explosives. Doors closed. Which are you going to do? Do you want access to more guns while the ship is in space, or do you want the ship to have more hit points by the time it gets there? You start playing these why is this important?
Yeah, I think that makes it a lot better because I've looked at some games in 4th Ed run at conventions, and I've seen people approach the skill challenges where it's just literally, oh hey, I need you to roll this skill, and this skill. Cool, roll them.
Yeah.
Okay, this happens.
Best 3 out of 5 wins. You are the bad guy.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that was fun. That was supposed to be an encounter that we experienced, but I've seen other people do
that's
it
because
very
fourth
artistically.
sucks.
Nah, I like fourth ed.
Sir,
You get
wish
right on
to
out of here.
quarrel.
Runneth up thee.
Fourth Ed has skills? No, it doesn't. It has powers.
I am actually playing in a 4th edition game right now.
You're a braver
I
man
will
than
be
I.
playing. It's just a short arc. It's part of the notorious D&G crowd where we rotate GMs and systems and stuff like that. And so Chuck is running some 4E, and I get to like live my warlord dreams again because warlords are awesome, and I wish they were
so
in 5E.
good. Man, I love it.
Warlords
But-
are cool. I respect them. They
They're
should
kind of-
have a place in 5Ed, but
Yeah.
give it time. It'll
But-
happen.
But
Yeah.
you're right. Like there was a lot of issues with 4th edition, and there's a lot of issues with if you have a non-combat encounter, but you don't make it matter and you don't pitch it correctly. What was the
Yeah, I think there's an artistic way to do those challenges that I think the game developers envisioned. Like, oh, these game masters are really just going to rock it out there. They're going to go out there. It's going to be super descriptive and evocative. It's going to just be amazing. And then these dice rolls are going to sneak in just at the pinnacle moments, and then it's just going to unfold in front of them. And then you see some people play, and it's just like, yeah, I rolled the stealth die. Oh, I failed.
Nah,
Right.
the
So-
guards see you initiate combat.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go. So you got to work with it. You got to really
You
make
should do those voices for the whole thing.
the whole rest of this interview.
Yeah.
Wow. Watch our view
great.
count just plummet.
You're all really loud.
I don't know if I can do the nasally voice for too long.
So we were supposed to come back to something though.
We were supposed to come back to we were talking about
on
matter.
off hurdle. Yeah. And that it can't be just
Right.
simple yes, no.
Mhm.
Side rant.
Yeah, there's a
Wait,
whole nother
side-
side rant there about the dual
There's
axis of
two
the
more
dice
side rants?
inside. I have side rants for days, y'all. Y'all messed up by inviting me.
Side rants to the power of 3.
The point of this side rant, the original first side rant, is if the roll doesn't matter, don't make it a roll.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
Agreed.
Thank you.
If the party needs this to absolutely be a thing, you should not put it behind a door where there's a chance for
Mhm.
failure. If they need this information from the NPC or the campaign does not make sense, don't put it behind a diplomacy check that the barbarian can roll a 3 on. And then the guy
Yeah.
says, well, you're a jerk. I'm not going to tell you. And now the game ceases to function.
Yeah. On the same
Yep.
axis,
But-
if you don't have an alternative plan, if this
Mhm.
fails, why are you doing it?
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like,
You
A-
guys failed, so I ordered 3 pizzas. I queued up Endgame. We're just gonna watch Avengers now, guys. Right? Cool.
there you go. Campaign over.
Campaign's
Like,
over.
Yeah. You got in your starship and you failed the astrogation check and you hyperdrived into a moon. Like,
you guys are all
roll
dead.
into-
Sweet. Let's go play video games.
so,
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to the old school days, right? Where they had those death trap rooms where you'd walk in and the ceiling falls in your head, you're dead.
Grim
Yeah, so like those sorts of events where I think it's the lack of agency really is what kills it.
No,
like-
Yeah.
that was
Yes.
spawned out of that old school vibe with like first ed, second ed, where the game was a puzzle death trap, and you were smart if you overcame it, and if
Yeah.
you didn't, fuck you, you're dead. Make a new character. It's like, what?
Yeah, I
I'm-
suppose so.
I'm kind of weird on that one. I didn't actually get to play first and second edition. I read second edition, but I did not play. I am from rural Alabama, and nerds were not really a thing in the middle of the woods.
Rural Illinois.
Yep.
The same
There
boat
you go.
as you.
We know the
Um,
life.
I grew up in a town of 1,500 people, and none of them probably even knew what D&D was. Well,
Nice.
let me back that up. I grew up 20 miles outside of a town of 1,500
Yeah, you
people.
did.
Man.
So,
With coyotes at night.
yeah.
The old sticks, as we call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, right about middle schoolish, it's a long perilous journey, but
Oh my God.
Pokemon became a thing, and then because everyone was playing the Pokemon game, we started playing Pokemon cards, and then Pokemon cards led to Magic the Gathering, and then Magic the Gathering led me to the Wizards community boards, which led me to meeting people who played Magic but also D&D, and that led me into, well, wait, what's D&D? So I was reading second edition stuff right as third edition came out.
That's
And-
damn near a reshuffle of all of us right now. You just did like a chapter shuffle of all of our backgrounds.
Right. So I did not get to play in the like, you weren't a real player unless you had a character die,
No.
as soon as they opened the door. I didn't get to play for that. But even 4th edition and 5th edition had rehashes of Tomb of Horrors, and now there's Tomb of Annihilation and stuff like that. And like,
Horrors.
I have no problem. I have zero problems with characters dying.
Yeah.
Cool. But like, I kind of want it to be a meaningful death, and I would like it to be
Exactly.
either I failed really badly or I was outsmarted, and that's the one that normally gets me. I would rather be outsmarted by a trap and die instead of like you walked into there's 3 doors here, and one of them, if you walk in, it will not kill you, and the other 2 you do. You pick the wrong one, you're dead.
That's
Right.
why the
Yeah.
that's why
There
the
was
Tome of Horrors with the Sphere of Annihilation in the fucking mouth thing, that's bullshit. That is designed to murder characters. That is a giant fuck you to players. That's all that is. I
Like,
hate that thing so much.
if there was a puzzle in the room that was like, here's the riddle that tells you which door is not death, I would be less mad. But if it's just like,
Right.
here's a
'Cause then-
66.6 chance that you're just going to need a new character sheet, like that's not fun.
Yeah, it's something I there's definitely been a shift in style. I think there's also been a shift in emphasis on storytelling, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I think in the beginning, you're coming out of wargaming, so who cares if your character dies? You're just a dude. Like, who are you, fighter guy? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, who are you?
I'm playing a
Playing
fighting man.
You know,
I'm playing
fighting.
I use magic. What am I? You're a magic user. I'm a magic user.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could definitely see an arc there, though, where it's coming from wargaming. You're going into dungeon diving, just, see if you can get through it, have fun, drink your beer, eat some pretzels, tell some dad jokes, have a good time. And then, some of these later editions, you definitely get more of the kind of like Lord of the Rings, kind of bigger, longer campaigns, stories that link together and aren't just told in one sitting. And
Well, that's what I think is so weird with the whole setup, because you look back at the history, Gygax wrote it because of Lord of the Rings, and yet those first versions were this gauntlet of nightmares you crawl through, and in the end, you're a guy with all these like hashtags all over his body of the amount of goblins he's murdered and the amount of loot he's got, but his name is like Grogsnot the Barbarian, and you don't even know if he has parents. He doesn't have parents. He's an orphan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a character. I mean, the most dangerous class you can ever have, being a parent of an adventurer.
Seriously.
So apparently we were saying player that whole time, killing players and not killing characters. So let's backtrack on that one a little bit.
No,
you meant what you
regrets.
said. You meant what you said.
I fucking meant it.
That's why we don't play with some of those guys we used to play with anymore. Okay, cue the end of the scene. I'm going to be gone
I was
now.
going to say,
Hey, Clint, we can edit that out, right?
Said too much.
We're going to edit that out. Okay, start over. That's a good one, Jeff. That's great. That's great.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm checking in on the chat. We actually got a pretty decent number of new names I haven't seen before. So let's see.
I take responsibility for 2 of them.
Yeah, I appreciate them.
Thank you for those
They're
two.
great. Yeah.
Correct.
So
Gregory's
let's
cool.
see.
One in
Baby steps,
20.
everybody. Baby
One in
steps.
20 D&D is Gregory. He runs a YouTube channel, like I said in my introduction. He's one of the players in my Wednesday night game, and he also played
Gregory.
two Wednesdays ago. He was in my Genesis one shot. It was my first attempt at running that system, and we had tons of fun on a little cyberpunk romp through the Netrunner Android setting. I played their Gen Con cyberpunk adventure.
Nice.
It was a blast.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. So one of the comments in here that caught my eye was that, man, I'm going to butcher the name here. Pejoromir. says the shift from dungeon crawls in general, murder hobo behavior becoming. Let's see, I just totally botched that sentence. I can't read.
Dragonlance influenced it.
Yeah, saying that Dragonlance, I'm assuming, led to the end of that, like getting into like more story.
It's pronounced Yoramir. I don't know how you didn't understand that.
I got so hung up on the saying of that, I totally botched the sentence following it too. So I just gave up on language. But yeah, so like I do think that Dragonlance, when it came out, there was definitely a switch to novelization, right? So you had more, character development was a key component of those stories. Obviously, people wanted to live in a rich narrative that was happening.
So you're saying it started with the Chronicles trilogy, that was the genesis of it being about character.
So it's the moment of shift in the early 80s. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It could be.
That'd be like all the Forgotten Realms books too, and Peter with Drizzt, and
because I'm trying to think, like back in the Greyhawk days.
Favorite character,
Drizzt. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Greyhawk was pretty generic, by design. I think. I mean, there was definitely things into it that were unique, but
I feel like with Greyhawk, it just kind of started, and then as an afterthought, they're like, I guess this is a world, and then they just tagged it a name, Greyhawk.
It might have been.
I feel like it was like backwards engineering. Like it got called Greyhawk when they realized they wanted to make a new world and call it Forgotten Realms. Like they had to go back and, oh shit, this has to have a name too.
Oh, can we go with like the White Realms? No, that doesn't sound right.
The White Realms!
So, Yoramir is Clay. He's the DM behind the screen. He's another one of my players in the Wednesday game, and he's one of the people. He loves him some RPG conversation. So if you're not following him on Twitter, I definitely advise doing that because the quality of my like think tanking and like constructive conversation, whether it be mechanics or story or world building or what, has greatly increased. Especially since he joined my Discord, I can just ping him and bug him all day instead of having.
That's awesome. Twitter. That's awesome. And, I mean, anyone who knows me knows I get like just obsessively interested in game design and like system crunch and all that kind of stuff, which
I could care less about all that.
I haven't actually done
bullshit. Don't need it.
I haven't actually done any game design. Like I haven't tried to like make mechanics and stuff like that. I've done a little bit of world building, and I mostly just steal everything that's not nailed down and then repurpose it to my own uses.
I think that's storytelling.
That is how it goes.
I think that's writing.
That's how DMing works. Like you don't have to read directly from one book if you steal from 50 books.
That's right. That's why cosmetics is everything. I got a kid in my son's game who's clearly think he's got me figured out because he's trying to memorize the monster manual. So I was like, he's like, yeah, but like, what color skin does it have and how many horns does it have? It's like, pink and 17. He's like, and he's lost. He's lost.
Just randomly raise the armor class of certain things by like 2 points sometimes.
Just by 2.
Yeah, people are like, oh, this is a bandit.
That's really weak.
Yeah. This is a bandit. It's got a 13 armor class.
It's a Snurfle.
No, he's carrying a shield, so deal with it.
Let's see. We had a question in the chat about what system we're using to run our 5e game. We've been playing with Roll20 so far. I think just because it was the one that we came across first, really. Though
it's free.
Yeah, free is good. But
what do you mean we're looking
Fantasy
at
Grounds?
Grounds? What?
Well,
I've put way too much time in Roll20.
I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, there are definitely some other competitors out there that have some advantages and disadvantages. I know as a coder, some of the things that are happening in Fantasy Grounds, some of these other ones where I can directly get in there and actually do some coding and fix some stuff, sounds really appealing to me. But I can see why that wouldn't be appealing to most people.
You're a coder, you say?
I would love to have a job if you got something.
I mean, I am definitely willing to pay someone to code some new character sheets for FFG Star Wars on Roll20 because...
And a job was born.
Yes!
I hate them so much. I will be the guy that like drops money to fix it for everybody because man, do I hate the FFG sheets in Roll20.
1
Awesome.
in 20 D&D, yes.
We'll talk about that later.
The biggest problem I have with not wanting to leave Roll20 is the learning. I have now overcome the learning curve of how to quickly and efficiently make maps and load tokens. And now I'm going the extra step of photoshopping my own library of imagery. Because now that we stream, we got to worry about copyright infringement. So, literally the same thing OneCrit just said about stealing from 15 locations. I'm now making original artwork by stealing from like 5 different sources and modding all the stuff, so you can't quite pin down where all my sources came from. I mean, you could, but you'd be just that guy trying to prove a point that I stole, and I'm already telling you I stole. So there. But at least then, I'm not just stealing everybody's artwork. I'm at least trying to make it look original. But anyway, we're getting off topic. All that time of imagery into maps and tokens has taken so long now. I'm kind of married to Roll20. So the hardest thing is if we switch, I would have to know if there's an easy way for them to facilitate that switch. And I don't trust these companies to make that easy.
It'll be a generation war.
I'm one of those people that I run a lot of one shots, and I run a lot of one shots for brand new people and people that are new to playing online, even if they're not new to RPGs. And it is super simple to just like, you don't have to download nothing. You don't got to learn nothing. You don't got to do nothing. Follow this link. That'll take you to Roll20. I've already done pre-gen characters. I can teach you while we play. I just need you. You see where it says longsword? Click that button. Cool. You know how to attack. Let's go. And like Roll20 is that for me. Like I can set up a game. In fact, I have multiple one shots already pre-built in Roll20, and like I can grab 5 random people from Twitter and play in 20 minutes.
Yeah. At this point, it's the devil I'm like, it's, I not even know. It's the devil I moved in with. And for all the devil's problems, I have learned to work around them. So I'm old. I don't want to change. I don't like change.
Fantasy Grounds does interest me, but at the same time, like I'm looking to start a new Star Wars game soon, and like I would really love it if somebody else GM'd, but you know, whatever. But if
it's the eternal problem.
Hey, I might be fixing
that. Maybe run a Mage Ascension game just because I want to play one.
Oh, man.
I know. That's the ultimate deal breaker. I think Mage Ascension breaks everyone. They're like, yeah, I want to play that, but I don't want somebody else run it.
But if I get lucky enough to find another GM and the GM says, yeah, I want to run it, we're using Fantasy Grounds, like I would obviously have to swap. And I'm totally willing to do that, even though I did just renew my annual subscription on Roll20.
Oh, that one hurt.
I did too. I just got my bill.
I forgot that I was doing that as well. And that was a surprise.
Talking about, we'll go back to that deployment. When I got the deployment orders and it shifted and all that stuff, and it finally ended up being a specific day, I went and was like, I need to cancel my Roll20 before I forget, and it like re-ups, and I went in and it was the same day I left. And I was like, yes, what are the chances? And then I didn't leave, so I renewed, and but that's I gotta have that pro subscription so my Star Wars dice work, because they're weird.
So what features do you really need from for your online thing? Obviously you're looking for ease of play and like kind of plug and play, but what sorts of things are appealing to you on that?
In what regard? Just like online games at all, or like Star Wars specifically? For
these platforms, so like the Roll20 or the Fantasy Grounds, what features are you after?
It's kind of system dependent. Okay. 5e, I can play with whatever. 5e, you can play Theater of the Mind, and you could just play on Discord, and as long as y'all could all communicate, so be it. Everyone's in voice chat. We'll get the Avray bot in here, and that's our dice bot. Cool. Done. Don't need no VTT. Don't need a virtual tabletop. You can just play. Certain other systems, like you start running into more problems. We need to track X, Y, and Z. So we need a tabletop.
God forbid you touch Pathfinder. It's so crunchy. You absolutely need that.
But so Roll20 has been my default. Even if I don't use the actual map, it's a chat box and a dice roller, whether it's 5e or Star Wars or what. I can have, the DM, can see all the character sheets. I can see what everyone's rolling. I don't have to worry about everyone roll your dice in person, and we'll use the honor system. And so like it just simplifies everyone that things are fair.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have y'all messed with Edge of the Empire at all? Like,
No.
I haven't. No.
Okay. There's a guy who does a lot of stuff for it. His screen name is Sky Jedi, and he's created an online tool that is literally just a dice roller and a chat box. Like, that's it. No character sheets, no maps, no nothing. And I could run a game using that if I wanted to, because again, like, I do a lot of theater of the mind. Like, let's just play. I would rather spend the time prepping story than, guys, I need 15 hours to draw a map in Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the thing that's really limiting me. I tried to do a exalted game for a little while, and I quickly realized my lack of artistic ability or graphic design ability felt like it was really limiting what I can do within Roll20.
Yes, but your ambition is what buried you.
And it always will.
Okay. This man next to me here, he's a good dude in that he decided, and I'm stupid and followed his example because he inspired it. He starts this exalted game. He's like, every NPC will have a portrait I will show you. I was like, wow, he's got a lot of portraits in here. I got to up my game. Like, next time I play, I got to have a portrait for every NPC.
At this point, I just have folders of tokens in Roll20. Like, I got sci-fi tokens, I got fantasy tokens. Like, whatever I'm playing, if I need to do that, I can normally fish for something. But again, my like, what do you need? Well, that depends on system. Like, I can play a D&D game with a fully fleshed out map because between Patreon and other stuff like or Patreon, sorry, I can go grab a 2-minute tabletop map and like,
oh, that guy's awesome,
right? I will have a map that accurately represents what I need to do. But if we're playing Cyberpunk, like, the amount of content that you have at your fingertips
very small.
Goes way down. Like, I need a female
state of fantasy D&D.
And once again, Discord decided to crap itself, so I'll bring you back once the audio is fixed. I think we're back. Yes, we're frozen in carbon. I think they can hear us. Yes, that was uber creepy, by the way. So I think we're
welcome.
This is gonna be great when I edit these videos later. So like those portraits, by the way. If anyone knows me, I over design and get way too involved in stuff, and I burn myself out like immediately. It's like
I'm in the same boat as you now. And then I went ahead and made I facelifted part of the world that they're in right now, so it's all like pseudo unique races. Man, I have to go make them now. I have to go make them because they don't exist because I'm stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember
about rolladvantage.com, right? Like, make
rolladvantage.com. What is that?
Like 3 seconds. Y'all talk. I'll go get tokens real quick.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. Yeah. So one of the things I was doing in that Exalted game, I don't know if you remember this or not, I put a lot of work into this part. I don't think anybody else saw it, but I literally wrote down where you met the guys, what you said to them, what they said to you, who they were interacting with.
Your note-taking was impressive.
Oh, man. I was like, what am I doing? This is insane.
The note-taking was impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did appreciate that the GM was taking the role of note secretary for us.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Players, do it. Get the GM to take the notes for you. If they're going to be that dumb, good on them.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's in the group chat just because that was easiest for me. I just threw like 3 random ones from my Star Wars folder in there. But you can take any picture, whether it's a URL or whether it's a picture you have saved on your computer, and you go to Roll Advantage, and there's a token maker, and you just drag it. And then you can select between, like, do I want it to be a hex, a circle, like a fancy border? You can change the color of the border, the color of the background, like all that stuff. And then you just right click and save it. And like, you don't got to jump it in Photoshop and crop it to be a circle and all this stuff. Just like, I can take any artwork anyone sends me on Discord for their character and have a token in 45 seconds.
Man,
that's awesome.
I will definitely remember that for the next time I run a game.
I'll go get the URL since we're talking about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely splash that out there in the stream chat if you can.
I live
out there.
I live in Pinterest now. Like, I never touched Pinterest. I teach high school art, and so normally Pinterest is my bane because Pinterest is one of the many hubs of lack of originality. Because then, like, kids jump to it to not make a risk. They'll just jump to it because it's safe, and they'll ape what they see in Pinterest. So I hated it for forever. But it's an invaluable GM source of information. It is between that and being able to Google search an image based off the link itself. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
I have a love-hate relationship with Pinterest because sometimes stuff gets passed around and stolen and, things get cropped off and all that stuff.
Yep.
But like you said, if you need a dwarven smithy looking character, sometimes you can just find one that's on Pinterest, and then somebody has put it in a giant folder of related things
of dwarven smiths.
Yeah, and
there will be 50 of them.
I kind of like this art, but I'm looking for something with black hair. You can.
Then you fall down the rabbit hole of how far you want to tweak it. You'll fall in for 2 hours. And then you
accidentally find some other art you like, and then the next thing you know, you came on there looking for a dwarven smith, but now you got pictures of suspension bridges up, and you don't know why.
You've got a subfolder of just suspension bridges.
I'm not even running a modern campaign, but if it was this is the bridge I would.
Yeah, but that's like a postmodern architecture piece. I'm not going to find that another time. I have to have it.
So great.
Definitely have a folder full of, I might need this someday. I better save.
Yep.
That's the thing about running games, man. There's a lot of little things that go into it that, taken together ends up being a ton of information. You end up being a little bit of a designer. You end up being a storyteller in the sense of writing a book almost. You have referee duties. You have, descriptive things to come up with. It's just constantly looking for inspiration. That was a lot of what the Exalted game was, just kind of going out, seeing a cool picture and being like, oh, I can use it. What am I going to tell a story about?
If you flip it, the portrait first, they're like, who is this guy? Then write the guy. That's actually a more efficient way to go about it. I never think that way. I always come up with the character first, then I get a dumb idea of what they look like in my head, and then I'm doomed. I'm doomed to a 2-hour Pinterest search.
I've done it both ways. I've gone on the internet looking for a sweet dwarven smith, and then saw a really cool elven assassin and been like, I'm saving that for later. And
that's a guy.
I wrote an NPC based on that gal, or this ship looks really cool. I was looking for a YT 1300 deck plans, but the fact that I found the deck plans to this ship means it's going to appear.
Yeah,
I have to use this art now.
And then based off the art, the PCs decide if they like the person or not. They haven't even spoken yet. That's happened.
So it looks like Chad's talking about in the miniatures there. Yeah. So I would say the miniatures. That was always a tough one for me because we always get the miniatures after we've kind of developed our character, and then you go to the gaming store and the miniatures are always either super generic or extremely specific in a way that is nothing
very
close
niche
to what you want. Yeah. There's no in between.
I just want a female elf that's actually wearing some damn clothes. Come on.
Man, it doesn't exist. It does not exist.
No.
Not
Boob
one.
armor for days. That's all you're gonna get.
The good news is, in the last 3 years alone, miniature quality and quantity has just exploded. You can go on Hero Forges and sites like that and just
Hero Forge is so
I
cool
want
for
to
that.
make this, and then with 3D printing, which is something that I would like to get into, but I have enough really expensive hobbies lying around my house already.
We should have Clint on just to talk about that.
Yeah, our sound guy is definitely big in that.
I am regretting the fact that I've been stationed at the place I'm at right now for 2.5 years and just found out that the library apparently has a 3D printer that I can have free access to as long as it's files and stuff. And so I'm like, why? Also, I'm not even playing in person right now. Why do I need to be printing minis? But it's there.
You got to.
Because it's there.
Man.
That is awesome.
Do you guys have any idea how hard it is to maintain a full RPG collection plus want to get minis and all that stuff when you move every 2 years?
No, that's got to be fucking hell.
That's like I said, the green screen is clothespins to moving boxes because I started packing up with the deployment and stuff like that. I was like, I'll just pack it up now, and then when we move afterwards, it'll all be boxed up. Well, my China cabinet of RPG books is currently empty, and they're just in these tubs.
Oh yeah.
I have entered
It was the
stage-
worst thing to move because all the boxes were to the brim with mass of just book.
Oh, so
That's
freaking heavy.
that's my problem. Is
Yeah.
I got the like plastic Rubbermaid guys from Target, and I have a system
Yeah.
now. I have to be like half of third edition can go in a box, but then the top needs to be like really light board games. Otherwise, all the edges and the lid will break. Like no matter who you have lifting this box, like the plastic will snap. And so like,
The
I need
last
to,
time
like-
I moved, I had all my gaming books. I had like 5 boxes basically to pack all my freaking books into. And it was like this 2-foot on a side box of just gaming books. And I was sitting there staring. I'm like, there's no way this dude's going to move this. Guy, he's been picking up like refrigerators and just going up and down the stairs like it's like one man show. He picks up that book, and that was the one time I heard him go, "Ooh!" And he looked at me just like pissed. And I was like, I'm a gamer. Just walked away.
My third edition box, because this was before I learned to like sort. I just broke them down by editions, and I have the most 3.x, both 3E and 3.5.
Everybody,
and,
with the D20 publishing, everybody went crazy on that one.
Yeah, and so like not even counting Pathfinder, that was in a separate box. Not counting like third party, like just official 3E and 3.5. Like they were all in one box, and then it was like a blanket around them to keep them from moving, and then like 2 or 3 board games on top. And like I had the tape down the side that said, D&D third edition, but then a second piece of tape that just said, "May God have mercy on your back."
Yeah, that's fair.
And that was the box that me and my buddy Rick broke, because like I picked up from the corners, but he picked up from the handle, and then like the handles just broke through, and he's left standing there holding
again.
Oh,
Never want to move again.
So who says gamers don't lift weights?
I mean,
that counts.
Especially if the game's not at your house. I've made the trek with like I gotta have like my 6 splat books, like my
Look at all your books.
I mean, this guy alone. I don't know if you guys have seen this book, but this one has got some heft to it.
Is Zweehander bigger than that?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I think it's taller, but
all anybody talks about is like how big the book is.
We over in the Notorious DMG server, we started like making memes of like, oh, is that the Zweehander core rulebook? And it's like tomes from the 1900s where they're like 6 feet tall and stuff like that.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
So we were sitting across from I'm totally blanking on the name of it now. We were talking about saying, it's the company that makes the miniature models for 3D printing. You guys are talking about Hero Forge. Thank you. God, my brain. Yeah, I was sitting right across from that because my dad's booth was right across from that Gen Con. And speaking of that booth, we did a giveaway at Gen Con, as some of you guys probably know about. And some of you guys may actually be tuned in to find out if you won or not. And
I forgot about that till this exact moment. I am now super excited. I know I'm not going to win because I wasn't in the drawing, but I'm excited nonetheless.
So for those of you who don't know, we had a drawing at the artist David Lee Pancake's booth, and he had a dragon sculpture that was a limited print. It was number 66 of 100 that we raffled off. And everyone came up, they put in their little slip, put their name in, and we drew a name. And the winner of that dragon head was Morgan West. Woo, girl! So if you are Morgan West, congratulations. For the rest of you all there, thanks for coming by and checking out the booth. I know David said that it was his best booth experience he's ever had. And in terms of sales record, it was his best day for art sales he's ever had in his entire career by a huge margin. So, you
were part of that, viewers. Thank you.
Yeah, it was huge. Awesome. It was really amazing.
Stuff is awesome. And he's worked so hard. How long has this journey been from him punching a clock to making his passion his job?
Are you talking about from starting doing art, or are you talking about trying to make it professional?
Trying to make it like professional, where they are living off his art.
I think it's taken about 10 to 13 years, probably. I think at this point, yeah. But it's been working out, and he's done the work. He's got in there. Cool. He's networked, and then was running the circuits. Like He's going to be picking up and going to Dragon Con in a couple weeks, simultaneously sending out to another convention. So
Wow.
I don't know how they're going to do it. But that is actually how we're meeting a lot of these people in the community is, connections at conventions. And so a lot of the famous artists and stuff that are around there, they all talk to each other, and game designers keep wandering by and, talking to David, and he doesn't know who they are, and it's hilarious. And, so, it comes up and they're like, hey, you know who that guy was? No, I have no clue. No, okay. That's, the CEO of this company. He's been making all the books for all the stuff I play. That's awesome.
I'm getting a little jealous because I know multiple people that are like, especially at Gen Con, but even before Gen Con, I know people that are like close enough. One of my buddies, Chuck, he was in chat earlier. He's like playing Radiator with the folks that make it and stuff like that. And he's met Daniel, who does Zweihander,
Yep.
and several people, you guys, and then several folks from various Discords I'm on are like, oh yeah, I met so and so at Gen Con, and they're going to be on the stream and all this stuff. And like, I was only going to one convention this year and had to cancel my tickets to it. And now I'm hearing like all these cool people that like, even if I just got to like see them and like a foot in the door kind of stuff. And it just didn't happen this year. So maybe next year I'll get Gen Con knocked out and stuff like that. Cause I've never been, I've only been to San Diego Comic-Con.
It's pretty fun, and the thing is, with what we're doing here at TT2KB and what you're doing with your channel and everyone else is doing with their channels, we're all getting interconnected, and, when one group gets connected to somebody, that's an avenue that somebody else can get in there. It's like the whole Kevin Bacon scenario. So like, I mean, if we run into each other at Gen Con next year and I've got any kind of foot in, I'll walk right over there and show you, like we'll make this happen. This year has been amazing for this stuff.
I was talking about it on Twitter earlier today, and I've talked about it before as well. Like, collaborative things like this are way better. You don't need to see every other channel as a competitor in that sense, right? You guys run a show that's kind of similar. Like, this is kind of similar to the show that I do. Okay, well, we're not fighting for viewers so much as we can share the same pool.
We're all two small potatoes, so the more we all help each other out.
Right. So I'm your guest star tonight, and three of the people in chat over there, like, I know came because I said, hey, I'm going to be on this show. Okay, well, that is three people that you got just because I was here, not the humble brag or whatever, but you didn't have to wait on three random people to wander through Twitch to just stumble on your stuff.
Absolutely.
So, like my Wednesday night game, the reason that I wanted it to be a collaborative, like everyone's got different channels or, different personalities or content creators or whatever, that is, we have 7 different channels that have 7 different audiences who are all coming together to watch that one thing and are now intermingling and not only meeting the other content creators, they're being exposed to other systems and stuff, because the people that like saw Gregory in my Cyberpunk game and liked what we were doing are now seeing D&D stuff. The people who were there to see D&D but hear us talking about Genesis are like, wait, what? Cyberpunk, what? Like, you can do that? There's other things and swords and orcs? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's awesome just getting that little touch here and there, because I think we're a little bit focused on D&D specifically, and we could use a little branching out here and there. But then again, we really lean really heavy on this man here on the far end of this chat to run all of our games, and I think it would kill him to force him to run any more games. So
no, you run it next time.
I will run the next game.
Good.
I will absolutely.
I think there's pros and cons to that, though. Talking about content creation, like if you are a D&D channel and folks know that coming to your channel means D&D, like you can have a steady, consistent audience. But at the same time, like as a content creator, sometimes you kind of play that game of like, oh, well, this very niche, like I just went on YouTube and searched for this one adventure from this indie RPG and no one's done a game on it. If I run it, anyone else from now on that like types in that one shot is going to see us running it. And so there's a couple of things
that's
like that.
Clever.
Like the Eberron game that I ran, the one shots I ran from Eberron, the Forgotten Forge. I ran it right after someone had just did a 5e conversion for it. So then everyone who saw that from Twitter and DM's Guild and stuff like that, and was like, I'll run this conversion. If they go to YouTube, there is exactly one guy running it out of that book and can see the content and how we did it and stuff like that. And so,
yeah, it's a smart play. I mean, we were looking at that a little bit, just kind of. I mean, this is getting a little weeds, I guess, with the way the channels are designed. But when you put up a podcast or a live stream on Twitch, you have to put it in some kind of category. And we've looked at tabletop role playing, we've looked at Dungeons and Dragons, and then now we're looking at just chatting. And really, it seems like the Dungeons and Dragons is really narrow. There's a very small pool of people and a fairly large number of channels doing that content. And so I think if you break above like 10 viewers, you're probably doing pretty good. Then there's a tabletop role playing, and that seemed like the ratio was like 12 to 15 viewers. It'd be like, oh man, you're breaking the mold. But then you look in this just chatting section, and it's this huge pool of potential people, but there's no focus on what they're interested in. So then you hit a little weirdness of like, can you be discovered in that giant ocean of people? And so these targeted things that you're doing or describing with picking a niche game that hasn't been exploited. In terms of like an audience on Twitch, it's really a smart play.
Yeah,
I've had that same conversation as well because I don't want to keep bringing up Star Wars, but Star Wars, right? Do I stream it in the D&D section where I know everyone who comes in there is looking for some D&D, and yeah, I'm not playing D&D, but there's more people who come to Twitch and just type Dungeons and Dragons to find RPG.
But then arguably a D&D player will understand what's happening better than a Star Wars person. But
like, are the people who don't even know that Star Wars RPG is a thing, they just saw some Critical Role and came on Twitch looking for other D&D channels, are they going to stumble on it and go like, wait, what?
Right.
Okay, you have that. But also, like, if you go over to the tabletop RPG section, how many people even know that exist?
Right.
There's much fewer channels there. So anyone who goes to tabletop RPGs, there's going to be, 10 to 15 people streaming at one time, and you are going to be one of them, even if you only have 2 viewers. But like you said, you jump into a generic category like that. Not everyone there is looking for some Star Wars.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like in these broader categories, you get a lot of people that'll dip in, get a taste, see what it is, decide it's not for them or it is for them, so you have a lot of movement going on, whereas I think in those more dedicated channels like D&D, you're going to have people who are going to pop in, they're just here,
Yeah.
And I think what we're serving up as well, like these Critical Role style games it's a niche audience, to begin with, and then it's a long form game. So I think it's already kind of it's a big ask, it's like, hey, welcome to the entire Marvel catalog.
Right.
You're jumping into the middle of whatever movie we decided to toss you in. Good luck.
What's the first movie you're going to go see? I'm going to see Infinity War. I haven't seen any of the others, but it's a movie, so I'm sure it'll make a lot of sense. It'll be fine.
That's a conversation I've had as well, and not to like wander completely off of RPGs and into like content creator, but my channel, right? For a while there, I was just streaming my online games, and they weren't a streamed game so much as they were somebody who is playing a game streaming. It was a group I found on Reddit that was supposed to just be like, hey, we had a player drop and we need someone to help finish out 5 to 10 sessions. Will you jump in? 3 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did all of Princes of the Apocalypse, all of Storm King's Thunder, and all of Tomb of Annihilation before I was like, okay, the deployment's coming up. I got to bow out. But it was supposed to just be like a thing. And I was not at all streaming. And then a couple of sessions in, I was like, hey, I've been like streaming, sucking at Overwatch. Would y'all be okay if I recorded the games? Because I like to go back and listen to them for my notes and stuff. Sometimes in the middle of the game, I can't take good notes, but if I record, I can go back and hear what an NPC said. So I started recording and then I started streaming. Okay, well, as someone who streams actual play, I very quickly realized that like, even though it's a totally different audience, people will watch a 2-second clip of your highlights from Overwatch or a 2-minute clip of your highlights from Overwatch before they will buckle up for Tomb of Annihilation session 38 with 4 people you've never heard of.
Yep.
And so my Roll High Don't Die, the like 1 hour social chat, you can jump in on any episode because they're independent, they're modular. This is our guest star this week. We talked about blank. Tune
Right.
in next week. We'll talk about something completely different. You don't need to
Right.
have seen last week. And same thing with
It doesn't
Wisdom Check.
require any buy-in. You just
Right.
pick it up and drop it if you
You're-
don't like. Yeah.
You're watching an episode of Black Mirror, not
Right.
Right.
Episodic.
you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
Yeah.
Not like Game of Thrones. Yeah.
right. And then same thing with channels like 1 in 20 D&D
Mhm.
and the Curious Owlbear and stuff like that. They talk about a topic and they may mention what they talked about in another video, but they talk for like 3 to 10 minutes. And like, that's the thing. And you can link that on Twitter. People can watch that when they're on the bus. They can,
Mhm.
whatever. It's not something you have to devote 4 hours into catching up on Critical Role.
Right.
And if I don't catch up now, I'm going to fall behind. And once I'm behind, I'm just never going to do it.
God, I'm 10 episodes behind.
I'm way behind too, and I need to. Keep
I'm on
up.
episode like 22, so I don't want to hear from.
So, but here's the weird thing that we're dancing around right now. What the zeitgeist is right now is this weird duality between short attention spans
Mm.
in a Twitterverse where everyone wants a trailer of something. So
Mhm.
they have this promise through highlights that what they're about to invest their time in is good. And yet, when they want to invest their time, they want 50 hours of content they can binge in a weekend until their brain bleeds out of their ears. And the moment it's gone, there's like, I got to wait a year.
Yeah.
A year?
Yep.
And so they want both. And
Yeah,
that's
it's-
such a weird
it's-
duality we live in now.
It's really interesting, that duality, to see the difference between the people that are like, okay, I just binge watched all of Game of Thrones and I
Yeah.
have to wait like until next season. And some people, like, the moment that it runs out, they forget about the thing. That life
Yeah.
goes on, stuff happens.
Yeah.
And, unless they were like die hard, I love me some Stranger Things, they don't necessarily come back. So, like, if you have a good set of streams and then you take a break,
Yeah.
you might lose audience just because they
Yeah.
found a new stream.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if you move too fast and people have a job, a kid, a dog, a vacation, or whatever, they, if you move too fast and they can't keep up, they're also liable to just say, okay, well, I'll find somebody that makes a video once a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it comes down to just consistency, I think, more than anything. Like, if you're consistently once a month, people know what to expect. They come in, they can keep up at their own pace. They can find what they got to do. If you're running a stream like every other day and that's what you're doing, they know what they're buying into. I mean, I don't know how the hell you would pull that off with the gaming, but
I think once a week is king, but there's no way I can run once a week.
Yeah.
I think once a week would wreck my marriage. I think it would ruin my life. I don't know how I would do it.
It's definitely interesting. And like I said before, I was doing twice a week. I was running once a week Star Wars and playing once a week D&D. And like, even then I was like, man, this is rough. Like, if I have a crappy Monday and don't get any prep done, like, good luck to Tuesday night game, because I did no prep. Busy weekend, my bad. Like, wing it, guys.
And there's a different pressure when it's no longer just your table. I mean, already that's a lot of pressure, right? Because you know everyone's depending on you to put something together. But when it comes to like something like this, where you have an additional audience of 15, 25 people or whatever it happens to be, like, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Yeah. How did you feel when you included the audience, that things changed for you? And if so, how did they change?
So that's a very interesting conversation.
Because it's one we're talking about on our end all.
Right.
Like,
so
the audience is the new sixth person sitting at the table with us.
Right. Since I hit this pause, this nice cleansing, like, all of my games ended and I get to start fresh. I have the new camera, the new microphone. What am I doing to change my stream? What is my next project? That is a thing that's been weighing heavily on me, because I see games out there that pay us $5 in tips and you can give any player an automatic crit and stuff like that. And you start like, I don't want to do that, but is there ways that I can get the audience to kind of buy in? And so there's good ways of doing that. There's a stream that I follow, Legends Die Live, And what they do is on the break of their stream, you can vote for one of the players, and that person gets the Legends die. And the Legends die is basically an inspiration roll. So not something totally game breaking, but something where the audience can kind of play in and stuff like that.
Right.
And for my next couple of games, I want to find a good balance of no troll from Twitch chat is going to somehow wreck our game because blank.
Right.
But also people who come through feel that they're invested. And I don't know whether that's like, whether I want to make it a monetary thing, like, hey, if you donate to the stream, then you can name an NPC, or whether I just want it to be something kind of trivial like that, like, on the break, everyone votes for their favorite character for this week, and that person gets a story point or inspiration or something that's not going to break the game, but still gets people kind of interacting. And if nothing else, gets a fight going in Twitch chat about why somebody deserves a story point because they totally crit that one guy or whatever. So I don't have an answer because I'm currently playing the same internal struggle to figure out where on that spectrum.
Not to tout the integrity of our game with like all caps or anything, like it's this heavy thing, but I don't want to pollute the free will of our players, but at the same time, fan investment by the audience is cool. Like if we can give them a buy-in of so I don't really know what an answer is. I kind of just like the running chat commentary of them being able to chime in, and we acknowledge that that they're in the room with us, that we talk to them,
right?
And I think that's currently as far as I want to go. I don't know if I want to offer in-game stuff to the
we did not do that in my online game, the Reddit one, because again, I was just a player and I was just streaming to stream. I was not trying to. I didn't want to be the jerk that showed up to an existing group and said, okay, I'm putting this on the internet and you guys have to play to the audience.
Yeah.
Again, we were just
I gotcha.
broadcasting so that people could watch. I did not talk to the Twitch chat on voice. I would type stuff to people who were talking and stuff, but I did not interrupt the game to interact with the audience. With my one-shots and stuff like that, where people know it's a streamed game and all the players are okay with it, I am much more prone to be like, I'm streaming. If you guys want to interact with the chat, like, knock yourselves out. You don't have to, but there it is. And people are more okay with like, someone made a joke about a character in Twitch chat, just like we're doing here. I'll look over and be like, oh, so-and-so says blank or whatever. And I don't mind that level. It's not interrupting the game any more than like you got a friend over and he's not necessarily in the campaign or she's not a player, but like they're hanging out in a room and you're going to be like, yeah, we're doing blank.
We never had a formal conversation about that, but we end up pretty much exactly what you're talking about, where we acknowledge the chat here and there when they bring up something insightful or something clever, or they correct a small detail that we overlooked or something like that. So
and
it's good to have that.
That's a big one too. Like, do you allow people to correct you on the rules and stuff in the chat? And I think it's important to kind of, especially with Twitch's little, like, before you can chat, here's the rules thing, to say, hey, we're new at this system. If you know what's going on, feel free to chime in, versus like, we're home.
I don't know.
I don't need rules lawyers.
I don't know. I'm fine if people, I'll put it this way. Like, if they want to chime in with rules discussions that break out in the chat as rules arguments, that's fine. I just don't know that I'm going to acknowledge by talking to them about it.
I reserve the right to completely ignore your
Exactly.
Right. Like, you have all the free speech you want, but man, rules lawyer arguments already halt gameplay at the table when now a third party has an open voice, and that third party isn't one people, 12, it's 20. You know, like that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, this is one of the things I think is going to be interesting about the new edition of Pathfinder that just came out. One of the mechanics they have is that they hand out, you're supposed to hand out basically inspiration dice basically 3 per player over a course of an hour.
What?
And so you just randomly start chiming them in there when things happen. And you can use them to like save you from death if you cash them all out, or You just get little rerolls, and you're just encouraged to toss them in there. And so I was thinking about, if I stream that, I would just say, if you guys donate a bit or more, you can give a player one of these inspiration dice.
I like that.
Then I don't have to do it at all. You know?
Okay. We don't have content creep. It just came out. Is it bloaty? Is it already like too much? Because I flipped through the book and it seemed like a lot.
It's different. It's if you haven't seen it yet, it's to me it feels like they took 5th edition and made a Pathfinder 5th edition.
That's
so
what
it has
I'm
a lot of the characteristics of both.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't be part of the playtest or any of that stuff. I've seen the character sheet. I've seen like screenshots of the book and stuff like that. But most everyone
I peruse classes and races. That's what I always look at first.
Everyone I've heard who's chimed in either on my Twitter feed or on my Discord that has done that has said the same thing. It's like, whether it's they 5th edition to Pathfinder or whether they Pathfindered 5th edition, like that's the analogy that gets thrown in.
Makes sense. I mean, it's the right business move. 40 plus conditions.
That's not accurate from what I was looking at. Actually, when I was looking at the conditions list, there's only like 6.
Okay.
Now there's spells that'll say what they do specifically, but the actual conditions list was very short. Now what was interesting is when I was reading through it, there's a lot more fluff than I remember there being in Pathfinder books. So like in the races section, for instance, they talked about like you pick, like I'm a dwarf. Okay, cool. Well,
I saw what you're about to talk about. That's cool.
well, I'm this lineage of dwarf. Okay, at level 1, pick a thing that's your type of dwarf thing. Okay, at this level, you get another dwarf trait that you get to pick.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a lot of like, you hit a level and you get a selection of things.
It's like they broke down like the base shit dwarves get, like the poison bonus and or resistance to poison and stone cunning and stuff like that. And they broke it apart. Oh shit, who did that? Was it 3rd Ed that made it where you could build the base race with options? By like 3.5, they made out a book where they made the base shit that you normally get like modular, like you could pull it in and out for other stuff.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember off the top of my.
Doesn't matter, but it sounds like they're trying to plug that in early.
And my book is in the other room. I want to grab it so bad.
Nah. Like we should drag this out. Pathfinder 2's got plenty of time. I just thought it was cool that they moved half orcs and half elves under the human subheading. That was like,
and they also talked about how you can put it in other sections. So like if you wanted to have like a halfling dwarf, you could have a sub race on the halflings. Yeah, so they're like, if the GM wants it, here's how you could do it. Like,
okay,
here's the likely mixes that could have been potentially, you know. So it's interesting.
So they're saying anything goes, or are they implying in their lore?
They're implying if your group wants to do it. Okay. They're saying if your group wants to do it, and your GM is saying this is a thing, here's how you can do it. So there's like a whole bunch in the book. It's just like the new school, you know, people are here at the table to play a game and to have fun, do what your group wants to do. That trumps anything else. You know,
let the rules be more of a guideline and more flexible and stuff like that. I can appreciate more of that in gaming these days, and thinking about races outside of the just like every edition of D&D has human, half orc, half elf, dwarf, blah. Like, okay, well, what if one parent's an elf and one's an orc, or what if blank? Like, let's get away from using race as the nomenclature. I appreciate that Pathfinder 2
ancestry
went to ancestry instead of using race to denote the different archetypes and species. But also like kind of breaking away from every dwarf must be blank.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool features. Like one of the things I really liked was I was reading was it gnome? Yeah, it was gnome. And they have like a condition called being bleached. So like they're immortal, but they're fey creatures that slowly lose the magic unless they're constantly innovating and experiencing new things. And they will eventually all succumb to bleach, where their magic leaves them. They go all grim and dark and then fade away.
They've done all there is to do, or at least in their neck of the woods. Like if they're not getting out of that comfort zone and doing new stuff, then
bleach
magic.
That's cool.
It's a really neat concept. And so like there's a lot of these little nuggets I'm seeing. And I like the game design philosophy of like you're always getting something. It's not necessarily powerful, but it's a choice.
Well, that
Like
was
pick something.
That's what made Pathfinder cool out the gate. Like every level.
Pathfinder out the gate got rid of dead levels that 3.5 had.
Oh, man, I hate
It gave you little stuff like what were they called? Rogue talents.
Yeah.
Like, you can walk really fast on ledges. Okay, well that's not game breaking, but here's a new exciting thing that you do. And because you got something new, people try to like come up with a reason to use that thing. So just giving people fodder to be excited about instead of like roll your hit die. Cool, you're done. Next.
Yeah, for me, like I'm the type of player I can't deal with those simple classes where it's just hit something and move. Like I get really bored really quickly. So like for me, the types of choices that you seem to have in Pathfinder versus maybe some of the classes are pretty good in Fifth Ed, but some of them are a little simpler because people prefer that, and that's not my
Fighter's very
can be depends on the type. But
so your champion does a little bit of like wrestling and pinning and stuff like that. But compare that to 10th level shield bashing, like whatever kind of feat fighter from Pathfinder, where you're like, I can push people down a hallway, I can knock people prone, I can pick people up and throw them. Like,
Pathfinder's got some interesting things in there. Like one of the things I was reading was that, not to make this an entire episode about Pathfinder, I guess, but like there are differences in equipment. So like if I'm a sword user, I feel different than an axe user. Or if I'm a shield user, there are actions like I ready my shield to block. I use a reaction to block, and that does a certain feature. Or I could choose not to because my shield might break or something. And so there's more active decisions.
And stuff like the shield bashing that I mentioned, like having your shield and which shield you pick. Is it a wooden shield? Is it a metal shield? Is it a tower shield? I always appreciated that over like, 5th edition is nice and simple and it's my go-to, like I said. But at a certain point, like I have a shield. Okay, what does that do? +2 armor class. Well, what kind of shield is it? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Armor class. Okay, well, what can I do with it? If you check it on your sheet, you have +2 armor class.
So that always, I mean, it's streamlined play for sure, because Fifth Ed is fast. I will give it that. It is real fast. But it feels, maybe as a wizard, I have a lot of choices, but it feels like some of the other classes, you're basically just showing up, roll the dice, pass to the next person, you know?
And that's why
the book does have that implication, but I think
it's
depends
one
on
of
your
those things, though. You don't necessarily have to write everything out if you have the right players who will do stuff.
If you got creative guys, then the tools are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Fifth Ed, though. There's nothing inherent to the system itself that gives you guidance or a way of handling scenarios. It's just kind of like, if you want to do something, just figure it out.
Right.
Like, okay, well, I could always do that, but this game seems to require it, you know?
That's one of the gripes that some people have about Genesis. Genesis is the generic version of Star Wars Fantasy Flight. They basically took their Star Wars game and went, man, wouldn't it be cool if you could just play this in any setting, any like theme? And so they just basically grinded all the serial numbers off of Star Wars so that it wasn't Star Wars IP, and just made it generic. Instead of having a Wookiee, you now have an archetype that's just called a tough. Okay, what does that mean? Right. Is this Shadowrun, and that's an orc with cybernetic arms? Is this like medieval times, and that's an orc or a giant or something?
It's like when modern? D20 did their system, and then you saw those D20 like D20 modern and D20 Wild West and D20 blah blah blah, and they all had archetypal attribute named characters.
Fast guy,
right?
Strong character, tough
and so
character.
Genesis out the gate has that, like the smart character, the tough character, the average character, the fast character, or whatever. And it's up to you to kind of map that based on what you're doing. But at a certain point, you get people that's like, I don't want a book that just tells me go make your own shit. Like that's why I bought the book.
Oh my God, that was my biggest gripe with the Gehenna book.
I could have taken Star Wars and homebrewed it into blank. I didn't need you to just take all the copyrighted words out of Star Wars and resell me the book. And so there are people that kind of gripe about that. Like, if you're going to sell me an RPG book, if you're not giving me lore and you're not giving me rules, what are you giving me? Don't give me a book that tells me just make it up with your friends.
Yeah. It's good use of your money there. So that is really interesting. I lost it whenever those books came out for World of Darkness. That was like the end times, and they're building. I don't know if you were a World of Darkness player at all, but there was basically a running plot. Yeah, and there was this running plot for like the old school vampire days. Coming to the end times. It's a whole big important thing. Everything has been leading to this point. They finally do it, and they're like, we're going to finally cap off all of our novels and everything and bring it all to a conclusion.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly what's going to happen.
I know what you're talking about.
All been building and all these little subtle cues, all these characters doing what's it. And get the book in hand, I look at it, and it's a choose your own fucking adventure book.
Which I loved.
Here's 3 possibilities, and here's one where you just make it up.
But that's frustratingly consistent for everything we ever published, because every book was written from its own perspective. So everything was conjecture. Everything.
Yeah. Not cool. Not cool. Not cool, White Wolf.
Done.
Chat says werewolf book was great, but vampire one sucked.
Yeah.
Debatable.
The Wraith one was cool. That was cool.
Wraith was consistent with itself. That was okay
everything.
With that.
Everything ended poorly.
You're dead. You're going to get sucked into oblivion.
Everything was bad.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's interesting with these approaches. You have these games that have this consistent through line, or you have these generic platforms that you can build whatever you want out of. It's. I think that's what is interesting about gaming, is that you have different approaches. You either have like, here's your entire game world, here's all the lore and the fluff that goes along with it, and then here's some rules maybe that kind of make it work, sort it out. Or you have here's your freaking toolbox of like all the nuts and bolts that makes the system go. Put whatever skin you want on it, whatever lore you want, whatever fluff you want, and go.
Yeah, but they all eventually become all of it. Like, they all start with the tools, and then eventually they got to market some story to you. Like fucking Magic the Gathering did that. Like, I started playing Magic the Gathering back in the day, and there was no story. I mean, I guess there was a story with Mishra and Urza, the brothers, but like, eventually you go down, and I turn back and I leave Magic for a long time, and I come back and I'm like, yeah, they're these planeswalkers, and yeah, they're all friends, and they tour the planes, and there's 15 different cards of this one guy, and it's all the same guy, but they're all different cards. It's like they needed to brand their narrative, so they had the story people on the hook for money as well as the game. It all ends up getting lore anyway. So the trouble with White Wolf is they were tied to that lore. Like, out the gate, they were tied to that lore.
I was the same way when I first started Magic. Like, it was just strategy. What cards can I force together to make a really cool combo? But then I left for a little while because I joined the military and took a break from it. But then I got to places where it was something that you could play in the break room on lunch and stuff like that. And I bumped into people that knew what it was. And then I came back, and Ravnica was a thing.
Yes.
I love me Magitech. So because I'm such a Neberon nerd, like, Ravnica was interesting to me. And I was like, man, eventually, like, Wizards owned both. Like, there's going to be a D&D book someday. And there it was. It took 15 years, but there came a Ravnica book.
Which is really interesting. I'm curious how that's going to play out as an actual story, because I don't know if that's going to be as difficult as, say, like a Star Wars. Like, we've talked about this in the past, where like games with a really, really defined IP seem like a hard place to run a new game in.
Right.
Like Star Wars in particular, always for me felt very constrained. Like,
everybody's got to be a Jedi.
Well, where it's like everything that was inherent to that story was there. Yeah, the Skywalkers are bust. So,
Star Wars, the Fantasy Flight system is 3 rule sets, right? It's one rule set divided into 3 themes. There's Edge of the Empire for all your bounty hunters, your Han Solos, your scroungers, your explorers, everybody out on the rim, like moisture farming and, farming dirt. Then you got Age of Rebellion.
Drinking blue milk.
Yeah. You got Age of Rebellion. Again, same rules. The books are interchangeable, but the Age of Rebellion books focus on rebels versus Imperials. And so you got spies and military trained people and more like explosive type weapons and like ships like the X-Wing and more like military craft and stuff. And then you have Force and Destiny, which is your Force users and Force sensitives and stuff like that. Okay. Well, like you're saying, it's an established IP. If I play Edge of the Empire and we're a bunch of bounty hunters and nobody's like out on the fringes of hut space, cool. We know some gangsters that don't exist in canon lore and we go do stuff and we shoot and we rob and whatever. But if you're the rebels, okay, well, do you go blow up the Death Star? If you're playing a bunch of rebels and you defeat the Empire, like how do you make that work for there's certain you can't do that. You can't play a Force user that kills Luke Skywalker without like rewriting the canon. It's not like
I almost feel you have
Abrams.
I almost feel you have to throw the canon out or jump to a time period where you can make up your own shit.
Right, and that's one of the interesting things about the Force and Destiny side of it is, okay, you all want to play Force users. Let's just say we make a 6-man Jedi party, right?
Yeah.
Why? Remember that part where all of the Jedi were murdered and like only 2? So everyone individually has to be one of those Jedis who escaped Executive Order 66 and went into hiding. But then for some reason, the 6 of you decided to make one giant clump of 6 Jedi who then go around doing high profile, this is an RPG party thing, blowing stuff up and murdering everyone. Like exactly the opposite of what a Jedi in post Clone Wars time would do in the canon. And you're like, okay.
But at the end of the day, if you want to fucking force push shit, then there's conceits that have to be made, or it's
or like you said, let's go play during the Clone Wars when you can just be 6 Jedi on a Jedi mission to go do Jedi.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it does feel like when you look at Star Wars, everyone wants to be a Jedi, right? I mean, when you got the choice, well, okay, yeah, but I mean, when you got the choice between psionic wizard knight guy or
space wizard,
or
by its name,
space wizard, sorry, or like
space wizard.
Guy shooter blaster, you're gonna go with space wizard every time, but I think if you have a setting where it's appropriately limited and you have a world that's apparently defined in in the genre and everything, then stuff like bounty hunters, like described there, are really interesting. Soldiers, like mechanics, pilots. Pilot's always been kind of a weird one to me. Like it's a trope that everyone wants to include, but it never works. But I don't know. I don't know why it can't work, but it just doesn't.
I know why it works.
I had 2 pilots in my last game.
It's one person doing something and everyone else not doing it.
The reason why you play the pilot is for plot armor.
Yeah.
Watch Lost. Frank Lapidus wears his uniform every episode and never dies. You know why? They need him to get off the island in the last episode. Frank Lapidus, plot armor.
When it comes to Star Wars, though, I am a very weird Star Wars nerd in that I don't care too much about. I'd play a Jedi eventually, and I want to see that side of the rule system and stuff like that. But on my list, like the Force and Destiny stuff is the lowest one. Is it still interesting to me? Yeah.
So what do you gravitate towards?
I gravitate more towards let's go play Firefly in the Star Wars universe. Let's be a crew and our own little ship and just trying to like keep ourselves making just enough money and getting enough supplies to like survive, right?
Space Western.
Yeah, let's stick to that. But I am a Star Wars nerd that cares very little about Jedi, and thus, I guess, I don't care too much about the Star Wars or the Skywalker lineage. Like, I loved me some Solo, and I loved me some Rogue One because
Rogue One
it is
good.
nice. it is nice to finally have a Star Wars movie that explores there's an entire galaxy. How come everything revolves around the same 6 people and 12 planets?
Well, the Force is with them. It's right there.
Yeah, but like with the
All
whole
the
like,
Force is just with them.
let's turn this RPG chat into a Star Wrist slap fight. But like, I don't want Rey to be a Skywalker. I want something else to finally happen. Like the entirety of the 9 movies at this point is one guy. His dad, maybe his kids.
I want the kid in the stable that moved a broom to be a Skywalker.
Yeah,
I want him to be a Skywalker. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
But
I think
that's kind of what I like about RPGs. Is the same stuff I liked about things like Rogue One and
Rogue
Solo.
One was great.
fucking brilliant. My favorite of the movies,
It is
I think.
a bunch of random people stepping up to be heroes instead of like, why is this guy the hero? It's his destiny.
Yeah.
No, it's because he's Donnie Yen and he's got a little bit of force.
Yeah, I love the scale of things in Rogue One because there were consequences, and what's weird, I've had arguments with people where they said this is the movie that had no consequences, where they weren't invested.
Bullshit.
This is the first one where I watched the movie and went, "Holy shit, this is important." You know, like these people are sacrificing.
It bothers to explain something that's arguably a plot, like
massive
nerd
plot hole.
argument for years, and lovely way of explaining it away in a way that makes sense. It's great.
Yeah, I like the shades of gray in it, I think is what it was. Whereas a lot of the Star Wars movies are very black and white by design.
Chat says Rogue One is like the Dirty Dozen of Star Wars.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
It is.
And they also said it's like watching the Titanic. You know how it ended before it started? Yeah. Well, Plague State definitely was not a fan of Rogue One from what I recall. But
but at the same time, like people that don't really love Rogue One because they know how it would end either way, then you have that many more people that like fucking hate the new movies because they don't know how they're going to end, but they don't like where it's going just because there's a couple ways that J.J. Abrams is bucking against expectation.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you can't win either way.
Let's keep the Star Wars hate going. I hate Episode 7 because it is exactly like Episode 4. Oh, wait, no, I also hate Episode 7 because it is nothing like the original trilogy. Okay, well, pick one, nerd.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Episode 8 is just bullshit. I'm like, why? Well, it's like, I don't get it. Are there going to be a couple, but they're not going to be a couple? And then, like, everybody's wrong, and then like I'm fucking brain farting on his name. The smuggler. Oh my god. Guillermo. No. Help me out here.
Nope, you got
I'm just enjoying this.
He's the smuggler that betrays them. Holy shit, I'm an idiot.
Lando.
I'm gonna have to go to the internet now. It's not Lando Calrissian in 8. The actor.
It's the same dude. Same dude.
He's talking about Frankie Fourfinger.
I'm not talking about Frankie Fourfingers.
We're just gonna let you hang and twist in the wind.
I know. I'm looking it up.
Crowd, don't help him. Don't help him. Just make fun of him in the chat.
Del Toro. Fuck off. Oh my god.
Hey,
you feel
man,
better now?
Who plays Frankie Fourfingers?
Oh, that was Frankie fucking Fourfingers.
Wop, 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 tried to help you.
Oh god.
You told me to shut up.
Oh.
Well, guys, we have with that incredible brain fart.
We're gonna end on my brain fart. Fuck
I
you.
think we have to. That was a perfect point. Yeah, we're somehow already at the 2-hour line. I don't know how that happened.
We wandered away from RPGs and into Star Wars, so it's about time that we just.
It's an RPG talk. It's all circles back. It's nerdy. It's geeky, and it's good. So yeah, I had a fun time with it. So I guess we should start talking about some outro stuff here, and make sure we replug your good stuff here. So talk one more time about your OneCritWonder stuff and the content, where they can find you, some links, and all that kind of good stuff, and we'll get that going.
You bet. I am OneCritWonder on everything that I could claim the name. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of those things. Unfortunately, on Twitch, I am OneCritWonder TV because anytime you claim a name, there's always an account that's been inactive for 3 years and not using the name that you want.
Yeah.
So OneCritWonder will get you everywhere but Twitch, where I am OneCritWonder TV. I do quick, like 5 to 10 minute single topic RPG videos. And then I do an RPG social hour, normally Sundays at 3, but schedule currently wonky due to newborn. And then Wednesdays, 6:30.
Congratulations.
Yes. Wednesdays, 6:30 PDT. I am doing the D&D 5e Essentials Kit. It's live streamed on Twitch and then uploaded on YouTube 48 hours later. Once that wraps up mid-September, I am looking to do some Star Wars, some Genesis, maybe some Cyberpunk stuff. So stay tuned for that while I explained to people on the internet how these dice work.
Oh, nice. God, a busy man. Got all kinds of good stuff going on there. And yeah, man, we are definitely going to be checking a lot of that out. And I know we have got a calendar up for a lot of this content. So if you're watching the chat and you're not familiar with us, scroll on down at the bottom. You should see a link to our Discord. If you join that, you will see a lot of these people, along with a lot of people in the chat with you right now, having more conversations in between each of our wisdom checks and just recruiting each other for games, talking about each other's content. We do a lot of cross promotion. So if you have content you want to get out there, go check it out there.
Jump in, join the family. We're a warm atmosphere and all that jazz.
Yeah. And we put out, like I said, a calendar. So you'll be able to see all the great shows when they are. And we've got your shows up in there, I'm pretty sure. And so that will definitely help out. Now, Levi, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Everstorm?
We are running a 5th Ed homebrew. It's a nautical based game. They've been a little bit stuck on an island lately. But our game returns this coming Saturday for game 19.
God, were you up to 19 already? It's amazing.
Yes, 19. And we'll be playing this coming Saturday, where our intrepid heroes, our 5, have finally seen their long-term efforts to free themselves from this place maybe come to fruition.
God, we're never getting off this island.
What lies beyond the waves of the Everstorm? Aptly named, as it's constantly surrounded on the far horizon by a counterclockwise hurricane storm.
It is a great game. I'm really looking forward to getting back into it because we've been
what mysteries does it hold?
The animated intro that y'all had come out a couple of weeks ago for the Everstorm game is like super nice. So jealous.
I can take no credit for that. Jeff can take no credit for that.
Nope.
Clint, that is all Clint. Clint, our sound production guy, hands down one of the most talented of all of us. And as much as Dustin is crazy dedicated to the networking and the constant linking of all of you in the social web and how great he's been at reaching out to everybody. Absolutely. Clint is that dedicated to the projectiness of all of this and building it up into stuff. So I'm very blessed to be surrounded by guys that are as passionate about this and as throwing themselves into it as I am, just in different facets. So I'm lucky that we're a team. And I love my friends. My friends are kick-ass. So thank you.
Hey, love goes right back to you, man. Yeah, it's been great working with the group and bringing more people into the fold. You know, as we kind of go, finding new talents out, new skills, new stories to be told, and kind of combining them all together. And as we've had some fantastic guests in the past, we have some more coming up soon. And this next streak of people coming on is actually pretty amazing. So next week, we have Satine Phoenix coming onto the show. And we may be, I know, I said it out loud and it just doesn't seem real, but yeah. So that's, I think we're going to be doing a Wednesday show for that. So the Monday that we normally come on wasn't working out. So we're looking at August 14th at our regular time at 10 p.m. So if you're here, make sure you come check us out. If you got questions you want to ask her, go ahead and get it to us on the Discord. We'll pre-screen those questions and, we'll get those out. Make sure you get your answers. So there's that one for next week. And we just had Stefan Picorni from Dwarven Forge on.
That was crazy.
It was mayhem. Yeah, it was all kinds of nuts. So that was right before Gen Con. August 19th, we have Daniel D. Fox. He is the man behind Zweihander, and he's going to tell us all about that and how to deal with it. And then on August 26th, we have Scuzz, and we're going to be talking about modules for D&D 5th Ed. And then after that, we got some turkey action. So we got a lot of people coming on, and it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait. And we'll be looking for more people in the future. So be sure to come check us out, see what you have to offer us, and tell your story. So until then, we'll catch you next week on Monday. And thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.